So that was pretty awesome to watch from both sides because you were pretty unsure who was going to win. And you're like, oh, Bryant's going to win. Oh, Michael's going to win. And then, yeah, it was just a great match to watch overall. I think the highlight of the entire match for me, though, was the turn 1 Pithing Needle in Game 3.
Oh, yeah,
and
that was great.
Everyone in chat, everyone watching, and the commentators were all rooting, please name Floodstrand, please name Floodstrand. And he did, and almost got like the cheesy free win, but ended up Bryant coming out of it.
No, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely good. And it was great, too, because, we saw one of the things that we saw, and one of the benefits, to kind of playing in this league, and something that maybe a lot of players aren't taking use out of, is Bondi was looking up Brian's deck list the entire time. Like in between games, when he was thinking about sideboarding, when he was thinking about a lot of different ways he wanted to go about, how he was going to sideboard and how he was going to plan his match out, he looked at his opponent's deck list. And I think a lot of people kind of like do that, but they don't realize you kind of have access to it, all the entire time. So I think that's a reason he might have been able to see it. But right now, instead, we're going to have a Delver mirror match, which is going to be kind of interesting. And if you're wondering what's the difference in each player's deck list, we're going to be having Cardboard.live up shortly with both sides. So we're going to get to see the small differences between both decks. But this is great because Jarvis used Grixis Delver to murder the Legacy Premier League last season and win the game. And Bob Huang is really known for his, Grixis Delver prowess. It's one of the decks that he's really known for, just, kind of playing Delver decks in general. This is going to be a really interesting and tight match here. Tannen, who's favored?
So it is a mirror match, and it's usually you say, whoever's on the play is going to be the favorite, and that is a big deal here. But I got to say, after looking at the deck list, I think Jarvis Yu is a favorite in this match. And one of the main reasons is in Jarvis's opening hand. He has a Grim Lavamancer main. Jarvis and I kind of had like a little bit of a chat going during the pre-games. And he was talking a little smack. He told me he was going to beat Bob. And then he kind of backed off of it a little bit because I think he knew that I was going to say it on air. But not only that, he called his deck Jund. And I was like, what? What I thought you were playing Grixis Delver. And he's just like, no, my deck's Jund. And the reason he says that is his build's a little bit different than what you're normally seeing out of Grixis Delver. Versions that say Bob or say I would be playing right now. Right. He has this Grim Lavamancer main, like we've talked about, which I love not playing it on turn 1, by the way. I love just protecting it as much as possible. He also has a Snapcaster Mage main. So cards like his Diabolic Edict that he has main, which you see in his hand here, can go a long way here because he can actually answer True Nemesis and Gurmag Angler main deck with either one of these cards. Edict taking care of True Name, and then Lavamancer plus something like Lightning Bolt or a block with an Insectile Aberration can answer a 5/5, which normally you're a little softer to game 1.
Right, absolutely here. And this is going to be, I think, a very close match. The Delver v. Delver here. What's kind of great here is Bob is leading off on Underground Sea, and Jarvis here is leading off on Volcanic Island here, which means he's going to have access to Lightning Bolt and Lavamancer. Going to be pretty solid here. But also, it's going to be a little better for him to use Wasteland. When we think of some of the more impactful cards in this matchup, I tend to think of cards like Gurmag Angler.
Mm-hmm. And so, you mentioned Wasteland as well. So there's 3 kinds of Delver games when you play the mirror, right? Because the mirror is actually one of my favorite matches in all of Legacy, and I think one of the coolest matches in all of Legacy because it's super fair most of the time, right? And it's more of a dance than it is like someone resolving one spell and the game being over. You're going back and forth a lot, right? Like someone's usually in the lead and someone has to follow. So the 3 kind of games are, there's the fair game. There's the game where someone just gets run out of the gym. And by that, what I mean is on the play, you're like Delver, Secret, stays your spell, Wasteland you, the game is over. And then in the 3rd game, you have someone get blown out in some crazy thing that happens in turn 3 or 4. But I don't expect that to happen. These guys are going to play pretty close to the vest here and not do anything that's going to be a huge risk unless they have to.
Right. We're going to see here, Jarvis is going to go ahead and ponder. We're going to see Wasteland, a Daze, and a Ponder, and I believe he's going to keep them all, draw this Wasteland. Head on over to Bob's turn. Bob is going to fetch for a Volcanic Island here, drop himself to 17, cast Preordain, see a young Pyromancer. gotta imagine we're getting rid of that, and we're gonna cast Delver of Secrets here off of this volcanic island, pass it back to Jarvis. What do you think Jarvis is looking to do here on this turn?
So Jarvis is going to be looking to use Wasteland here as much as he can to the best effect that he can. And generally, you want to go after the black sources in game 1 and in game 2. But you want to go after the black sources as much as possible here because you want to cut them off Gurmag Angler. Again, like we said, it's the hardest card to answer. And if your Insectile Aberration gets bolted, it's not the end of the world here. You see Bob having to use Force of Will to take care of Grim Lavamancer here. Now, while this is a good play for Bob, it's something that he's not super excited about because he would have loved to have had Force of Will to help protect his True Nemesis next turn that he's going to be slamming here, but he does have a Daze to kind of help out. So if Jarvis taps out, the coast is going to be clear most likely for this True Name to resolve.
Right, but we are going to see here Grim Lavamancer is going to be cast from Jarvis. Bob Huang is going to go ahead, force pitch Daze. He wants nothing to do with that Grim Lavamancer here. And a Ponder here is going to find some insane cards here. It's going to find Daze, Thoughtseize, and another Wasteland. And you gotta say here, I think Jarvis being on the play was pretty relevant this game, and it is really coming into effect, and you can really kind of see how it's really playing out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, this is another thing that I really, really like in the mirror is being aggressive with your brainstorms, which you're seeing Jarvis you do here. Like, I see a lot of people talk about you should hold your brainstorms. I cast more main phase brainstorms than I do in pretty much any other match in the mirror because you actually want to be pretty aggressive and make sure that you get everything kind of going. The match can be very snowbally. Like once you have the lead, which we see Jarvis like kind of like being out in front here, right? Like he's attacking, he's got a flipped Insectile Aberration, he's got multiple Wastelands. You kind of want to like put your foot down. You want to take it, you want to take your small advantages you have and run away with it.
Absolutely here. And we're going to see, Jarvis kind of using all of his draw spells here to ensure that his hand is really going to be set up here. And we're going to see a third Wasteland, a Daze, and a Spell Pierce in Jarvis's hand. And Bob failing to flip this Delver for a second turn in a row. You got to think that things are getting really in dire straits for him.
Yeah, getting below 10 is kind of where you start to really worry about your life total because, something like Bolt, and we know that there's a Snapcaster Mage, we see here, something like Bolt, Snap, Bolt can finish the game off really quickly. It's like 8 damage kind of out of nowhere, along with something like True Name Nemesis, which you can't block or can't interact with if it resolves, can end the game very quickly. So, yeah, Bob is in a rough spot here. Especially with this Wasteland, it's going to keep him off of 3 mana. Like while Jarvis, if he didn't have True Name Nemesis in his hand, this Wasteland would actually be like pretty inconsequential here because, he could still cast all of his spells. But the fact that he's been leaning so hard on trying to get this True Name Nemesis into play this game, it's going to be pretty hard for him to come back from here. And it does look like the Insectile Aberration finally gets to flip here. And getting to hold on to this fetch land is actually pretty sweet because it gives him like that pseudo scry play this turn as well. He got to shuffle away the card if he didn't want it. Yeah, so it seems like it flipped on Force of Will. I was about to say I couldn't see it there.
Make it out.
Yeah. I was about to say, and like this is definitely a card that we want to shuffle away at this point. You need another threat, something like a Lightning Bolt to answer this Insectile Aberration, or something to help, try to turn the race around, which he's going to have to leave back the Insectile Aberration here because he really needs to block. But
wow,
that's not going to work here.
What a card here. Young Pyromancer is going to be Bob's play. He's just going to have to pass it back, leave this Insectile Aberration on defense, and Snapcaster Mage off the top for Jarvis. This is not a card that you generally see in Delver decks, but you got to think it's going to be pretty good here. And with Daze to protect Jarvis here, this Bolt is just going to go ahead and clear the way pretty easily here. And I think we're going to see a Daze into a Daze back.
Yeah, there's going to be the Daze fight here, the classic Daze fight. One person is getting a 1/1 out of it, but the other person is going to kill their opponent with the Daze here. So Bob's back into the spot where he needs to draw something this turn. Or he's dead again. Oh, a Lightning Bolt off the top. That was pretty good.
A Lightning Bolt off the top is a fantastic draw step here. And Bob's not really giving Jarvis any chances here to find like a Force of Will or even make use out of a potential Spell Pierce drawn. Just going to go ahead, Bolt here, get another Elemental token for his troubles. And I think I agree with this here. We're going to have to get busy. We're going to have to get busy right now. You
need to start attacking as much as possible because every draw step could be the one that finishes the game. You are at 3. And like I was about to say, a Lightning Bolt off the top. One good Bolt deserves another, I guess, Rudy. Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, what a fast-paced match here. And, you got to think, both of these players very familiar with their decks. I don't really think they made really any mistakes here. I think they just kind of burned through what they had to. They didn't really have too many choices here. And now we get into sideboarding. Let's take a look at Jarvis's deck. What are you looking out of Jarvis's deck here? What do you like in his sideboard, and what do you think you don't like?
Don't like the Force of Wills, Rudy. I really feel like the mirror is 100% just played on the board after sideboard. So things like Spell Pierce and Force of Will become like way, way worse. And then you bring in stuff like some form of number of Pyroblast or Retinoblast, whichever one is the flavor that you like to play. And then cards like Liliana of the Last Hope, and then Diabolic Edicts, anything like that. Like, so you want more removal, more hard to answer permanents, and then you kind of turn your counter spells into better cards. By turning Spell Pierce into Reb, it allows you to counter most of the spells you would mostly hit with Spell Pierce, besides, say, Liliana of the Veil, which is a big deal. But it allows it to actually kill Insectile Aberration or Delver Secrets as well. And that can go a long way in this matchup, because you want to make sure that your Diabolic Edicts get the biggest amount of mileage out of that card as you can. We're also seeing kind of a sweet one here from Bob Huang's sideboard. You see that he has 3 Blazing Volley?
I do. He also has a Kolaghan's Command here, all of which he's going to be boarding in. We're going to see these Thoughtseize and Inquisitions come out. Discard when you're trying to go toe for toe isn't going to be ideal, but we do see Blazing Volley fantastic in Young Pyromancer mirrors come in. We're also going to see the Blast, as you mentioned before, and kind of a different route here. It looks like Bob, has Kolaghan's Command, and that's his kind of way to grind instead of Liliana the Last Hope. Now, Tannen, you played a lot with this deck. What is a card that you think you'd rather have here?
I think so. It's difficult. If you have Liliana the Last Hope and you have 2 of them, it matters if I have 3 or 4 Underground Seas in my deck. I do like having 4 Underground Seas. I'm going to be playing 2 of that card in the sideboard. Kolaghan's Command does kind of help fight for the board a little bit more than Liliana does sometimes. It just depends. Like, if you want to be more creature fight heavy while also getting a discard out of it, the Kolaghan's Command is a lot more flexible. So I've never actually played with the Kolaghan's Command in this deck, so I can't answer it from a personal point of view. I think I would personally like to have Liliana of the Last Hope a little bit more myself in this matchup, but I do think Kolaghan's Command is great overall, because it just helps out in so many different matchups. And that's why you see it in that card in the sideboard, is it's very flexible as well. And we see a Blazing Volley in the opening hand for Bob here with a Young Pyromancer and Jarvis's. So we already have that kind of thing that we alluded to already set up and ready to go for this game.
I'd like to make a brief note here before I get back to doing play-by-play. My last name is spelled with an F and not a PH, so it's completely different. Let's make that note here to all our viewers. That is not how you spell my name. Learn how to spell my name, or I'm coming for you too. Anyway, so we see Bob Huang start off with the Volcanic Island, Delver Secrets. What a great first turn here. And Jarvis is going to kind of mirror that in a sense with Underground Sea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Delver's from turn 1 of both players. Looks like Bob's is going to actually flip turn 1, kind of trying to, turn the screws towards Jarvis here the way that game 1 went. Turn 1, flip an Insectile Aberration, and then kind of ride that to victory. And this is a pretty big turn, too. He's going to be able to play another Delver of Secrets here, and also have a Lightning Bolt for the Delver of Secrets from Jarvis's side. So this is a very quick start from Bob here, and Jarvis needs to answer this immediately.
And we see Jarvis has a lot of good answers in his hand for sure. Grim Lavamancer, Pyroblast are going to be fantastic at, potentially taking out some of what Bob has. And Bob is, kind of falling behind in terms of cards. But Blazing Volley and Lightning Bolt and Ponder are going to be fantastic at being able to catch him up.
Mm-hmm. And you're kind of seeing what I alluded to during sideboarding. These guys are playing very quickly, but you're seeing that they're both prioritizing fighting for the board here. And that's like one of the most important things in the matchup is if you can get ahead at all on the board, it's usually good enough to win. You're going to kind of steamroll your opponent from here. This is an interesting ponder from Bob. So yeah, this is 3 lands, but if you think Wasteland is good enough to win the game from here with Lightning Bolt and Blazing Volley, then you could keep it. But I think it's actually just way too low on the floor. Like, I don't think there is a floor on Ponder. Like, there is the worst possible Ponder that I would keep, and I think that one's just below it. Like, if it had 1 spell in there, I might be willing to keep it and try to Wasteland them out. If we had already seen them miss a land and know that they didn't have a 3rd land, it's also probably a little more likely to be kept. But Bob smartly identifies that and shuffles here.
Yeah, we're going to see here, this Lightning Bolt is going to take out Delver. Probably a setup for this Delver the next turn. Wasteland's going to go ahead and take out, interestingly enough, the Underground Sea. That means that Bob here is really respecting Gurmag Angler here. He is ahead on life total, but doesn't really want to, get too far behind here. And we are going to see Jarvis play this Wasteland, cast a Ponder. We can tell that he's playing around Daze here.
Yeah, playing around Daze when you can afford to is a big deal in this matchup and something that you have to do. So I kind of want to go back and talk about the destroying of the Underground Sea there. So it's a big deal. It is kind of a nod towards Gurmag Angler, like you said, but it's also a nod to Liliana, right? It's a double black spell, and that's why I talked about possibly having 4 Undergrounds in your deck, is because like this kind of matchup, it's kind of hard sometimes to resolve a spell that has double black. While you could possibly go for the Volcanic, all the cards that are red in this matchup only cost 1 red and don't immediately win the game. While a lot of the cards like Gurmag or Liliana can have such an impact that the game ends on the spot pretty much. It takes a couple turns, but like you cannot recover from what happens from that card. So it's very important to kind of keep your opponent off black mana or off double black as much as possible.
Absolutely. And we're going to see a Ponder here off the top. And we did see that this Wasteland went after Volcanic Island, and the reason that I think we're seeing that off of Jarvis' side is because he respects Blazing Volley here more than anything, and his hand is very weak to it. We are going to see a very interesting Ponder from Bob, and we are going to see a shuffle, which I do kind of like. Wasteland, if you assume that Jarvis doesn't have anything here, a Wasteland might take him out, but your Delver's not flipping for quite some time, and True Name Nemesis is essentially uncastable. So we are going to see a shuffle, Flooded Strand, an attack for 1, bringing Jarvis down to 13 and a pass here. Jarvis here is going to Brainstorm, find True Name Nemesis, Scalding Tarn, and Ponder. All really solid cards here. And really, I think we're just looking for a way to kind of, clear out Bob's board here. And I think this Grim Lavamancer is going to be the start of that.
Yeah, so this is actually a really good turn for Jarvis here, getting the Grim Lavamancer in play. If Bob doesn't have an answer, it's going to run away with the game. If he does, you have third land into True Nemesis next turn and just hope that there's not a Daze. And if this sticks, it should be probably good enough to maybe get this game done with. But Bob's got a pretty good turn here, too. If he doesn't want to play around something like Daze, he can use Blazing Volley plus Gurmag Angler this turn. There's a lot of choices going on here, and which one do you want to lead with is actually pretty important. Like, what's the one that's most important to resolve around a Daze? And I can't say I disagree with getting Angler into play first.
No, that's one of the things that we've kind of discussed here is how important Angler is to this matchup here. And we're going to see an Angler come down. Blazing Ball is going to go ahead, take out this Grim Lavamancer. And, Jarvis is going to go ahead and fall to 11 here. And Jarvis is going to be in a weird spot. Is he going to respect Daze as the one last card in Bob's deck? And that's one of the things is maybe he can't. And it looks like Jarvis agrees that he can't. Looks like True Name is going to resolve. Who do you think it's naming here? Because I think it might be, I think it might be naming Jarvis or Bob. It could just pick one at random. It looks like we did name Gristlepuff though. A Flooded Strand off the top here, not great for Bob, but he is going to play it for the utility with Delver of Secrets and Cassian Pyromancer.
Yeah, I was about to say, a lot of people would, if it was a different land, like if it was a dual land there, you could definitely hold on to it for future Brainstorm fodder. But getting the Flooded Strand into play is pretty important with the Delver check every turn. Ponder was a pretty good draw here for Jarvis U because now he's kind of got a lot of what Bob's doing all rolled up. He's got a Pyroblast to kill the Delver of Secrets here, and he's got a Gurmag Angler to check the opposing Gurmag Angler along with True Nemesis. If he finds a way to answer this young Pyromancer before Bob goes off with it, this game's actually just over, and Jarvis is going to run away with it. So best thing for Bob on the next turn is either Brainstorm or Ponder off the top here, flipping Delver of Secrets.
All right, and we're going to see here that Jarvis is going to wait. He's going to try and see if the Delver flips. Maybe he can get some information here. Right. It looks like Bob is seeing a young Pyromancer here. Do you want to keep young Pyromancer here, Tannen, as a way to kind of go wide around Angler and True Name?
So I think you keep any spell that's like above replacement level, right? Like anything that isn't just a bad card, which I can't think of one that's actually just a bad card, because right now you are checked on the board. And so this makes all of your future cards just insanely good. Like let's say Bob draws a Ponder, Brainstorm, or it's just some form of cantrip from here. It makes both the young Pyromancer just insanely huge. And I think that this is like one of the cards that you just have to keep in this situation because it makes your future draws so good.
Absolutely. So we're going to see Young Pyromancer played. Delver of Secrets is going to eat the dust with Pyroblast. Jarvis is going to draw Snapcaster Mage and kind of use that to flashback Ponder here. I'm not really a fan of this Ponder. I don't really see anything that's exciting here. I think we're going to see... did he shuffle or keep? Oh, he kept. That's kind of interesting.
So it keep allows you to use Wasteland here to kind of cut Bob off of a little bit of mana so he can't go completely crazy with his Young Pyromancer. Island, the worst possible draw on the deck here. And then I think there was a Brainstorm hidden below this with a fetch land. So what he can do is he can Brainstorm into some more cards, fetch them away, and possibly just try to get super far ahead here. I think Jarvis is banking on Bob bricking for a turn.
And this is kind of an unfortunate spot for Bob. Island in hand, Gurmag Angler, Young Pyromancer. This Trinity Nemesis is ticking away. It is putting Bob in a really rough spot here. And if you're Jarvis here, or if you're Bob here, do you want to attack and try and trade with your anglers here, or do you just want to pass?
So it's interesting. Like, if you attack with angler, you're offering up the trade, right? Like, there's no way you get blown out in that scenario. And in a lot of situations, I would. But here's the problem. What happens if you attack and Jarvis just puts a Snapcaster under it and you get attacked back by the Gurmag Angler along with the True Nemesis? Now you have to throw a Young Pyromancer under the bus.
See, this is kind of an interesting point too, right? Because if he thinks that Bob drew a spell, attacking with Angler is just bad with the double Pyromancer.
Right. And so, like, that's the interesting thing. It's like, had Bob drawn a spell there, something he could cast as an instant? Yeah, for real. Like, I think you just snap off an attack of Gurmag Angler. But since he's not, he has to have this game go long. He doesn't want the game to speed up in any way. He's at 15. Jarvis is at 10. If he draws a cantrip, he's still in a decent enough spot here. This is a hard Brainstorm for Jarvis here. I think you almost just have to get rid of the Daze. Like, I think he wants to keep it just because it's a spell. But I think shuffling your deck along with another Brainstorm here is just so important. But we'll have to see what Jarvis does, because he's going to take his time and think through this, and I think he should. And I was going to say, keeping 2 spells is never bad in the situation. Plus, he can just wait on drawing the fetch land next turn, since he's ahead, and he knows that Bob probably doesn't have anything, that he's just getting max value out of his cards here.
Absolutely. We're going to see True Name Nemesis go ahead, attack in, crash in for 3, bring Bob down to 12, and a Misty Rainforest off the top. Bob here is more flooded than the Nile.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty rough. We said it a couple times, one cantrip would have blown this game wide open for Bob and allowed him to go really, really wide and start attacking with his Gurmag Angler. But these last couple of top decks of just lands have been putting him into a really rough spot. And the way Jarvis is playing, I think Jarvis knows that Bob's hand is just really bad.
It's probably true here. Bob, although doing a pretty solid impression of tanking and pretending that he drew something potentially reasonable and not sure how he wants to go about it. So a lot of posturing here. And Jarvis is obviously a very methodical player, very intelligent. He's not going to make any obscene movements or just make any mistakes here. So we're going to see Jarvis probably think very carefully on his plays to try and play around the maximum amount of cards out of Bob.
Mm-hmm. I like brainstorming off the volcanic island here because of this exact reason. It came up before I came and say it, is you want to make sure that you can cast the most absurd top deck you can have here, which is Liliana of the Veil. This is going to kill off a Young Pyromancer, and this is going to be pretty unrecoverable for Bob Long here.
Yes, this is becoming miserable, more and more miserable for Bob. I don't even know if Bob has even outs. I'm looking at his sideboard here, and I don't think he actually has any outs here. And then Young Pyromancer off the top. Hey
Bob, I heard you liked Young Pyromancers.
Yeah, it just looks like Bob is a big fan of Young Pyromancers and lands. Perhaps he should try Grixis Control if this is the kind of game that he wants to be playing. But if he wants to be playing Delver, he needs to draw a few more of his chief spells.
One easy way to kind of see who's going to win a game in the mirror is when you look at the graveyards and you look for cantrips out of games that have actually played longer. And if you look at Jarvis's graveyard versus Bob's, which there has been some cards delved away, but if you look at some of the graveyard cards versus the other one person has a lot of reactive spells and creatures in the yard, while one person has a ton of brainstorms and ponders. And you're kind of seeing why that is kind of burying Bob in this game. It's very hard to win in the mirror if your opponent casts more ponders and brainstorms than you.
And we're going to see here, Liliana the Last Hope just can take out another Young Pyromancer. Back to Bob's turn. Bob draws Diabolic Edict. Not a terrible card to draw.
Yeah, I think it's a little too little, a little too late. This is going to make another 1/1, and it does get rid of the Snapcaster Mage. on the side of Jarvis, but I don't think this is going to be enough. This doesn't even allow Bob to get a good attack in towards the Liliana. I mean, he can offer up the trade of Gurmag for Gurmag here, which I believe he will, because this might give him a chance to get at Liliana, but maybe not even. I still don't think. I'm trying to think of a way that Bob can win from here. I'm like racking my brain.
Yeah, I'm not even sure here. I mean, it's theoretical that Bob could attack Gurmag Angler to Liliana. Jarvis misclicks, lets Liliana die, attacks with Angler this turn, gets a chump with the Elemental. Bob draws, dig through times into, Diabolic Edict and a Bolt. Or Treasure Cruise, I guess, would be better, because then you can get a land bolt Diabolic Edict, and then you could, Edict the Angler or something. I'm not even sure. I'm just coming up with just potentially obscene scenarios because I'm not really sure. Perhaps he has Terminus in the deck, and that's why we're keeping the Flooded Strand, to upkeep, the Terminus.
He just draws a wild draw 4 card from an Uno deck. It's just Ancestral +1.
Jarvis, shows him that he has, pocket aces. It's over. This is pretty bad for Bob. Jarvis's draw was pretty solid, pretty stellar. And even though Bob had a really good start, it ended up not really panning out here. We are going to see the Angler attack Liliana. I like this. Angler's just going to trade. No reason not to. I'm sure this young Pyromancer is going to eat the dust.
Well, see, the thing with the trade is it does create an interesting stress point. So if Jarvis doesn't have any follow-up, he has to minus his Liliana this turn to get back the Gurmag Angler or another creature to kind of put into play and kind of protect his Liliana while still attacking with True Name Nemesis. And this means that Bob's not losing his young Pyromancer. So if Bob were to draw something very good again, which getting back Snapcaster Mage is actually just game, right? Is there a Lightning Bolt?
I do not think there's a Lightning Bolt here, but there are plenty of cantrips. Oh, but there's one off the top. Jarvis is pretty good at drawing lightning bolts.
Yeah, I do actually like just getting back Snapcaster Mage because it still keeps your Liliana alive. That's what I say. I couldn't remember if he had a Snapcaster Mage in his yard or not. I can't see all of his graveyard. And it's probably better than getting back Gurmag Angler because of the upside of, you just get to get a cantrip. You get to keep your Liliana alive. And you get to possibly find Bolt in the game immediately. He's up a game as well in the match, as you see that Jarvis actually wins the match since he won this game here.
Yes.
So being up in a game, it allows you to be a little more, maybe, I don't want to know if to say risky, but you get to take chances a little bit more than Bob did in that spot.
That is going to be it for the day. So we have some pretty interesting, movements here. I beat Jody Keith. It's pretty fortunate.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Bryant Cook on the other side of the winner's bracket beat Michael Bonde. So Bryant and I are on a collision course. We're going to play in the winner's final, and the winner moves on to the grand finals. Both Bryant and I are locked for top 4, which means that both of us are guaranteed to cash this event. So congratulations to us. But Bryant's in a lot of trouble. And do you know why Bryant's in a lot of trouble, Tannen?
Because he's a Mets fan?
Yes. Well, besides his poor choice in baseball team, Bryant isn't the underdog here. And I don't know if you've been watching this, but I've been the underdog in every single one of my matches tonight, or in this entire league.
Rudy, bracket buster, Brixa.
Yeah, I haven't lost yet. So we're going to see if Brian can take me down. But on the other side of the bracket, Brian Bronduin, world champion, defeated Vincent Chandler. He's going to knock him out. Jarvis Yu going to beat Bob Huang. So next week, I believe we're going to have Bob versus Jarvis in 3 decks, a best of 5. So that'll be a really interesting matchup. And one of the reasons that this is going to be super interesting is because Jarvis and Brian both have these very wide ranges. If you go back and you look at a lot of the decks that they played, we've seen Brian play decks like Ad Nauseam Tendrils, Miracles, Grixis Control. I'm sure he's even played Delver. One time, he actually, in playtesting, thought it was really funny to play Cloud Post. So, I mean, it's possible that Brian might bring that up. And on the other side, Jarvis has won a Grand Prix with lands. He's won the Legacy Premier League with Grixis Delver and has basically slaughtered everyone.
Out of all the players that are left, besides you, I think that Jarvis has the biggest range left out of everyone. And that's not anything against the people that are still playing. It's just, the other guys are known for specific decks a little bit more than Jarvis is known for a specific deck. So I kind of agree with everything you're saying.
And so we're also going to see Jody Keith and Michael Bondi. They're going to move down to the losers bracket. Bondi's going to play Jarvis first. BBD's going to play Jody. So that'll be really interesting there. We've seen Jody bring an interesting standstill deck. I wonder if he's going to probably bring it again. So we are going to see in a little bit. But we do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, which is going to be Card Hoarder, Cardboard.live, MTG First, and the Epic Storm. You can always see all the matches and deck lists on itchjulian.com. We do appreciate you guys checking out the Legacy Premier League. Make sure that if you haven't already, make sure you follow the page. Check next week because we're going to have a really interesting set of matches, which is 3 decks, best of 5 between Michael Bondi and Jarvis Yu and Jody Keith versus Brian Braun-Duin. And that's going to be really exciting. I really can't wait to see who's going to play, and I can't wait to see what
decks they choose.
What decks they choose, because it's going to be really exciting. I'm really, really hoping that Jarvis just brings like triple Moon Stompy, like just something like that would be fantastic. I would just be all about it. So I'm Rudy Brixa. This is Tannen Grace. Thank you once again for joining me for commentary.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. I do like watching some Grixis Delver.
Yeah, well, you've played that deck once or twice, right?
Once or twice, maybe a few times, but I've never won anything with it, so
that's unfortunate. Well, don't worry, you can watch Jarvis. Jarvis can teach you how to win.
Yeah, apparently.
So I think that'll be all of us from this week. Thank you very much for watching the Legacy Premier League, and we'll catch everyone next time.